All right. Well, it looks like we're recording. So thank you so much, Xavier, for joining me on the second episode of Coffee with Kofi today. I have my beverage here. I hope you have something to drink as well, or not.
No, I actually have already finished my coffee.
Okay, well, I like that. You're ahead of the game.
Yeah, I had a few already today, so no problem.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. So no, we don't want you over caffeinated. So as I shared with you before the conversation, the aim of this is really to shine a light on leaders around the world who have answered the call to pivot their careers in some way towards work that is meaningful to them in some way, their families, the community, and the world at large. And so it's a real pleasure to have you join me today to share some of your story and your journey with being the co-founder and CEO of Five Lives. So thank you first and foremost. Enough about me. It might be useful for anyone who watches this to have an understanding of your background. So I just wondered if you could help us with a short bio of your career history to date.
Sure. So my side, I've actually a background in video games. I actually worked for many years in the video games industry, large and small. I worked for large companies like Electronic Arts. We've developed franchise like FIFA or Sims, SimCity. Yeah, so quite a large number of key games. A lot of people might have played, but also smaller game studios. And back to 14 years ago, I wanted to go and actually build my own game studio. Initially, I developed a first company who was actually building games around educations after many years working in that industry, because at that time we had young kids, we had that experience in building games, and we wanted already actually to build games that could be quite useful and have a strong social impact. So we developed a number of educational games to help people, learn math or other educational subject in a fun way. We had quite a good success on the App Store. We had a few million downloads with our math applications, but couldn't really find our business model. And at the time, actually, we pivoted from education to health. So we still use experience in games but it was more games around the brain to train or improve memory, attention, reasoning skills. So this is at the time, back to 2014, I launched an application called PEAK, P-A-K, that became actually the #1 brain training applications on mobile. So it was the largest app downloaded across the world with more than 60 million downloads. #1 in UK, France, #1 in the US. With millions of people actually playing these games to train, improve their mental skills. Obviously, some people were using it you will be playing Candy Crush in the fun way, just on the games side of things. But also we had a lot of senior people actually playing these games to fight cognitive decline. But we had quite a large set of players around the world. I did that for around 7 years. Actually, I sold the company to a large French publishing company back in 2016. And let's say 3 years after we sold the company, I wanted to go one step further into health. And this is where actually I started to work on Five Lives. Really wanted to go further around how we could help people with preventions or therapy of cognitive decline, of Alzheimer's and other dementia. Wow. And actually, there have been multiple triggers behind that drove me to work on Five Lives. Obviously, I learned quite a lot from my experience from Peak and my previous company about how tech, data, gamifications could have a positive impact on a number of health conditions, Alzheimer's and dementia. But also back to 8 years ago, after doing some gene testing, I discovered that I had one variant of Alzheimer's genes called APOE4, which gives me a way higher risk of developing dementia. So I was actually had a keen interest in understanding what you can or can't do to that disease. But also, fortunately, maybe years ago, my dad actually got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and we see kind of drove me even more to look for how digital solutions could have a positive impact into people's life, how we could help people actually avoiding having the disease, or for people who have been already with a diagnosed or sign of cognitive decline, what we could do using technology to improve their quality of life, or slowing down the effect of the disease, especially taking account there's actually no official treatment for the disease today. So it actually impact more than 50 million people worldwide, and actually with no treatments to date. There has been 200 billion spent in R&D to find a cure or drugs that could alleviate the signs of cognitive decline. It's the largest health conditions in the world with no treatment. So it's really so much that can be done. And taking account, we see my personal story with my dad, and such the large number of people actually impacted with no solutions, that also drove me to dedicate a lot of my time, energy, for me and my team, about how we could try to make an impact.
That is as personal a story as I think you can find for, as you say, dedicating yourself to something. And there is the altruistic element to it, let me do something that's helping society. But then, as I say, that very sort of personal sense, from the gene testing to then understanding your father's predicament, and it's something that resonates with me, not in terms of the condition so much, but through my work with Age UK, I've come close to the work they do and seen the support they offer in those areas. But it's more around when that motivation, as in why am I going to do this, is there. I don't know what can stand in the way, really. And it sounds like you've been able to harness some of that to produce, I use it, a fantastic application. So no, thank you for sharing that story. And I think when I look back at your journey from developer to product leadership, marketing, angel investing for a period, then peak 60 million. I mean, #1 brain training app in the world. It's nothing short of, I'm practicing my French here, magnifique.
Yeah, that's correct.
Does that come as magnifique? Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Treble. I'm mug myself. So some will wonder how you've transitioned through those various disciplines. So I wondered what you could tell us about going from different disciplines and opportunities throughout your career.
Yeah. Actually, obviously, now I've been an entrepreneur for the past 13 years. And I have to say, nothing is preparing you for being an entrepreneur. You might be skills in technology, in coding, or in marketing, and so on. But entrepreneur is such a roller coaster that it's pretty something which is pretty hard to learn, and it really comes a lot from experience on the ground. But maybe something to overcome, or maybe to have a better chance of success. And I think the first thing is really, who are the people around you? Because to tackle such huge problems, it could be for different health conditions or other subjects, it's not something you can tackle alone. You're not going to be alone in that journey. And I think the #1 thing would be to make sure to surround yourself with key people that can work with you and deliver on that journey. Because I'm not going to be the best coder, I'm not going to be the best marketer, I'm not going to be the salesperson, not the best scientist. But it's really about ability to gather passionate people around you to work on that subject. So we see here we have a very passionate team at 5 Lives who want to tackle and solve one of the biggest health problems of our time. But for sure, we need the best scientists. We need the best best developers to do so, and it's actually super exciting to be able to work with such great talents in building so. And I take the example on the academic side. We have key academic partnership with the University of Oxford, with Imperial College London. So I've been really how to say, excited and humbled to work with such great people who wants to make that impact forward.
Yeah. So I think you've touched upon something that resonates. I laughed when you said nothing prepares you for being an entrepreneur. In my fledgling relative to your own journey, it is nothing short of a roller coaster, in terms of the different skills that you're given the opportunity to lean into and learn on a day-to-day basis. And I think one of the things I would love for this conversation to be would be inspiring, but also supportive of people along that journey, because to change from something that is tried and tested and stable, that pays you every month, that is good and is good enough, and you're delivering on, is great. But you talked about having the right team around you. Are there any other things that have supported you on that trajectory of your growth and building the business that you're now building with 5 Lives?
Yeah, there's definitely a multiple aspect of. I touched on the point about the teams around you, but at individual levels, two things which has helped me quite a lot. Actually, first is actually coaching. I remember when it was actually not for 5 Lives, for Peak, my previous company. I was one of the co-founder, and when we sold the company, some of my co-founders left to build another company. So I actually became CEO for the company for 2 years. And the first question you ask yourself is like, am I up for the job? And actually, I went through 6 months of coaching to help me I was probably already up for the job, but just to get more confidence or reinforcement that I was doing the right thing, that I was capable of doing it. And definitely it helped me a lot to be more comfortable in moving into that position. The second was actually, I will call it find balance. I mentioned about entrepreneur being quite a journey, go through a lot of up and down, and especially down. And I think the challenge is, how do you react to all of this down? Because I know you try to raise money, and then you struggle to raise money. You spend a month building a product, and then you realize the product doesn't work, or you try to sell to a big client, and then the sale doesn't go through. But you go through quite a lot of down, and you take quite a lot on your shoulders. Take a lot of responsibility, accountability for what's happening. So sometimes it can be easily hard for entrepreneurs to sleep at night, because you have all the concern that you carry on your shoulders. And I think finding the balance allows you to go through a lot of the bad times in some ways, because the good times are easy to ride on, but it's very, over many years, it's really how you handle and manage this flow, and finding a balance, I would say, professionally, but also personally. To make sure you spend time with my wife, obviously, my family, spend quality time with them. It's a bit of your rocks, and you can rely upon, but also taking care of yourself, exercise, eating well. I think to have a good hygiene is also a very important component to find balance, because it's very easy to then be carried out and with lack of sleep, lack of exercise, not taking care of yourself. And I think it's important to release sometimes some of that energy or concern or challenges, and it could be in running, cycling, or for me, it's actually playing a lot of tennis. I'm quite a big tennis fanatic, let's say. But so but for me, it's a great opportunity to release some of that energy, find balance, and actually it all helps you also to reflect, because sometimes you're really head down thinking about your problems, and actually take the opportunity to take a step back, maybe through sports or some of the activities you can do outside of work, that you can find sometimes answers to some of the concerns you have. So I think it's very important to to reflect, take an opportunity to step back. And so it could be many activities, not related to sport. I'm sure it could be painting or music or something else that help make entrepreneurs to reflect on some of the challenges, because sometimes it can be so tense. There's so much, you put so much energy, you put your life, on the lines. I think it's very important to find the resources and energy to carry on for a long period of time. It's definitely not it's not as we tend to call it, it's a sprint that lasts like a marathon. So you need to
I thought you
find.
were going to say it's a marathon and not a sprint, but it's a sprint that lasts like a marathon. That doesn't seem
it's a very long. It's a very long sprint,
Okay.
because it might be for many years. You might pivot a few times on the way. You need to decide that sometimes something you've built up for many years actually doesn't work and you need to move on. So it asks a lot. So I think it's finding that balance is very important to be able to carry over that this over a long period of time, because it's by far it's not overnight success. So you need to have that good hygiene around you and off you to make sure you're able to carry that challenge for a long period of time.
Yeah, no, I really, really identify with what you're saying. And I think, as things develop and grow, I'll lean into that space more, because as a solopreneur, when you start out, you're responsible for yourself and your dependents. As you grow and then you build teams and you have investments as you've done, that responsibility spreads even more. Like, and the desire to make it work is beyond just yourself and the family. And the piece around balance, I think, is something that is one of the central tenets that I adhere to as well, insofar as you can't give what you don't have. I've learned, and often at times in roles before I took this path, you'd run, work, run, work, and then you do that, and then they call it burnout, I guess, and then you plummet. And my big thing and my faith lends me to wanting to stay at the top rather than visit the top. So the balance that you speak of is something that I hold dear to me. And I think when you fill your cup with things that sustain you, that give you life and joy, but also, to your point, that interconnectivity that you see in the natural world or the creative world, it recharges you, and then you can push that bit more and perhaps get that perspective to zoom out to see where you want to be going, rather than I don't know how we're going to do all this stuff. I mean, does that resonate with you as I share that back?
Definitely. That's I think it's finding, as I mentioned, finding the balance, finding the right balance for yourself, and be able to reflect whatever tools you use outside of work, to find the way and opportunity to reflect on what you do, because I think it's very easy to be carried out into a tunnel for quite a long time. So good to see
right.
the light which is outside.
You're right. It's when you say this, it reminds me of a conversation I had with a coaching client yesterday, where I was explaining or sharing with you that what differentiates us from the standard animals, like my cat that's snoring behind me, is our ability to operate on two levels of thinking. That emotional side, where it's fight or flight and we react, versus the higher level or more subconscious thinking, which allows us to, when we channel that, really focus on the experience from different perspectives and reach across to other, individuals or resources. And I shared with her at the time that we learn, in my view, more from reflecting on the experience rather than the experience at the time, if we choose to, So journaling is a big part of my daily routine. Is that something that you do as well, journal, or do you reflect in another way?
Actually, I do not use journal. I tried for a while, and maybe it was not the right thing for me. But for me to reflect on the day, I think it's maybe more for sports, getting out of the house and doing some activities where I have time to think about what I've done well or not well. So obviously I try to reflect because, as I mentioned, there's a lot of up and downs.
Yes.
It's very easy to think too much about the negative aspect of it, but I think it's important to really focus on the eye, on the few wins, whatever. What have we done well? What have we achieved well today? And try to focus, as much as possible on this. Sometimes, which I think, well, maybe I think I do on my side, but what I see as a trait from most entrepreneurs, I think it's a sheer optimism. I think we, at the end, we want to change things, solve problems. So we go, want to solve the world, or at least to go after big problems. And you need to have a sheer optimism to do so. You need to believe, because sometimes it's what was the saying? It's like, oh, they've done it because they didn't know it was impossible to do. So I think it's like, I think it's really you go and tackle some huge problem which actually could look like impossible to solve. But you need to believe, and you need a lot of belief and self-persuasions, and if you don't believe, you won't be able to have anyone around you to follow you on that journey. So I think at the end, I'm also the number one ambassadors for the visions we are trying to achieve. But you need quite a lot of optimism, and so, because as I mentioned, there's a lot of down, there's a lot of setback, and you need to be able to to go back up every time. And it happens sometimes in the life of the entrepreneurs. I think it's quite important to keep that optimism. And I think one day, if I will have to stop, it might what I'm building at the moment might work or might not. Is probably when I've stopped believing but we can achieve it. So, but I will have tried the best I can. So I think it's, at the end, I'm trying to give it all, give all your energy. It's like if I was like a sports athlete, you try to do the best you could, all energy. You've done a lot of preparation. You've done your best, and you can't give more than your best. No regrets.
That's it. And I think that's an ethos that many listening will identify with, where you can worry so much about the outcome, but there's an element where you have to trust in the process and the fundamentals of what you're putting into the journey. And I remember our last conversation when I was asking you for your counsel on something I could think about. And I think it was either resilience or perseverance. It was one of the two, which it kind of interconnected, and that comes through again, in the conversation today. Because you do need to believe, you do need to be able to forge forward. And so, thank you. I think these are really useful things. But I had a thought around something you said earlier around the team, because scaling up from being a one-person operation to building a team, you talked about passion, and I heard in there a bit about connected with the mission that you're on. For me, passion on its own won't carry a team, because I guess you need that interconnectivity. You talked about academics, then you've got the technologists, then there's the marketing. So to help others, and also myself for the future, what are some of the key learnings you've had about creating successful teams, from the journey that you've been on with Peak, whether at Five Lives, throughout time where you've had leadership roles, really?
I think it goes probably to almost what's expected of me as a leader or founder in the company. So one, which is to assemble the right team to go after that, because we need obviously great coders and great scientists and great data experts and so on. I think you need also big visions to rally on. I think about what we are tackling, but also I think you need to have the means to be able to achieve it. You give the tools. I'm not going to do the one building or developing, but you need to give the resources to them to be able to do their best work. Be coming from having the funding from investors or having some, building the right culture for them to work together. But really because if you have that, it's a bit similar to maybe a football team. You might have great players, but you have to make sure that players you have a vision of what you want to achieve, maybe to winning a trophy or winning the league. But you need to build the best culture for the team to play together and work together to do their best. If it's 11 solo players not playing together, not going to achieve great things and win the trophy. I need to be able to create that glue between the players. So it will be to have the resources. In that case, maybe to be the training pitch or the best coach or the best resource for them to be the best at what they are. But building the right culture within the team would come from the communications, the type of interactions, the trust I build in the team. At the end, we're a small team of 12 people today. But at the end, I trust what they do. And for me, it's a responsibility to give them the space or the environment for them to do their best jobs. But it's not me doing their jobs. I'm not going to be the one developing best or doing the marketing or the science part better than what they do. So I need to trust them and to give them that trust. And I think if they feel they are being listened and trust for what they do, I think it's first they will be doing great things, to give them a lot of space to achieve their kind of potential. But for sure, I need to give them also the right tools to achieve them. Could come from great colleagues, could be coming from the tools we give them, from the resources, the funding. That's why I think to have a lot of funding from investors to invest in R&D and have capabilities for them to achieve that is actually quite important. But I think they need to, I mentioned trust, being feeling listen genuinely. I give them I tend to call it a psychological space.
Sure.
Space where they could feel listened, which means it's not they have a lot of ideas, suggestions about how we could improve the product experience, the way we work. And if you not genuinely listens to them, you will never hear what they have to say. So it's not only me or speaking alone in the room about where we need to go. I think it's important to be able to listen to their individual suggestions and views. And at least I believe it's something we have done right in my previous company, but also in the new company at Five Lies, about trying to get the best of the team. And there's a lot of ideas, suggestions, new commercial streams or new products that we have built, which came from ideas which do not come from me. so I'm not like the sole leader about this is where to go and you have to do everything I say. I think there's a lot coming from getting the inputs and ability to get a lot of inputs and feedback from the team members themselves. So see, I will have to decide. Sometimes you need someone to be in charge.
It comes to you, right?
That's my responsibility because sometimes there is pros and cons. We have to take decisions. You see, I'm not going to be always taking the right one, but you try to do the best you can with the information given. But at least I really believe we give that space for the team to feel. That's why I mentioned psychology safe. They can share openly what's working, what's not working, what could be improved, both in terms of processes, but also in terms of the product experience or the business.
Yeah, that from what you've described, sounds like a great, rewarding culture that's been created. I picked up trust in there. I picked up autonomy, and that's a big one for me. I think I'm a rebel at heart, so I think we all want to be master of our own destiny, whether it's in the confines of an actual role, 9 to 5 or 8 to 6, whatever the times are, or whether it's on that entrepreneurial journey. So giving them that, but also the communication element that you described as well, all seems to come together quite beautifully insofar as you've got what you want and you've got why you want it, but it sounded to me as you've detached from the how that's going to happen, and empower the team to really, within a framework, like you say, there's some, obviously there's not unlimited funding unless you know someone that can, because I'm involved in funding, but there's not, you've got frameworks, but you're letting them co-create, that the how it's going to happen and the directions that the business can go in, which who wouldn't want to be a part of that, with the diverse viewpoints all coming together to create something that, I mean, certainly you should be proud of. I've used the app and I've been telling people about the app, and it might be a nice segue to talk about that, because for those that don't know about Five Lives app, in fact, probably what I'll do is when I do the final edit, I'll share a link to that so that people can see it. But could you just talk us through, like, in what ways it supports people, just in a few areas? Because I could talk about it because I've been using it, but I think it'd probably come better from you.
Yeah. So actually we've got two apps. We've got Five Lives and Five Lives Med, and Five Lives more from the prevention standpoint, and Five Lives Med is more from a therapy standpoint for people who have been already diagnosed. But both are based on the same principles of what we call multi-domain interventions. So we do help people to take care of multiple aspects of their lifestyle. Actually, that's why we're called Five Lives, because there's 5 ways to improve your brain health, 5 lifestyle elements, which comes from mental stimulation, physical activity, nutrition, sleep, and stress, anxiety management. All of that, from a scientific standpoint, have been proven to have a significant impact on your cognitions and reducing the risk of dementia, actually by more than 50%. So it's based on the studies called FINGER. So like the 5 fingers. But it also means Finland geriatric study. So it was made on a large longitudinal study in Finland, showing that senior people doing these 5 activities could improve significantly various aspects of their cognitions, like memory by 25%, attention by 80%, executive function by more than 50%. So you could have a very significant impact and actually reduce the risk of developing dementia by more than 50%, because a large part of dementia risk is linked to what we call modifiable risk factors. So if you're actually able to modify positively some of these risk factors, which are related to lifestyle, you can actually significantly reduce your risk of developing it. So the 5 Lives applications is a kind of a coaching program helping people 50 plus through mental stimulation, physical activity, nutrition, and so on, to actually have a significant impact on their cognitions. So people are actually using the application after a month of using the app, do report doing like 30% more mental activity per week, 10% more physical activity, eating 1.3 fruits and veg more per day, they're sleeping 30 minutes more per night, and they reduce level of functionality by 10%. So all of that combined makes it for almost like the best non-invasive, accessible solutions, which have actually a very positive impact on people's lives. So about more than 150,000 people we've used it to date in UK and France, and we benefit from that. And on the therapy side, so we build up very similar experience about multi-domain interventions and looking after these various aspects of your lifestyle, but targeted and adapted to people who have been already diagnosed with cognitive decline. So that's why I call it more like a digital therapy, because it's designed to someone who has been already diagnosed. So it's more like a medical product. As the science has demonstrated that multi-domain approach could actually positively improve cognitions in people who have been diagnosed, which means slowing down cognitive decline. It's not a cure, but it means you can significantly improve the quality of life and the cognitions of people who have been already diagnosed. And that's why we call it more like a digital therapeutics, digital treatments, and it could be treated as such. And so that product is not commercialized yet. So actually we're in the middle of RCT, so randomized controlled trial, which is basically a research study aim at demonstrating that we are improving cognitions in patients. So for now, we are in the middle of recruiting these patients. So we are doing it in the UK with multiple NHS sites. We're also doing it with a number of sites in France and the main geriatric center in Paris. So it's going through the process, but the aim is by summertime to be able to demonstrate that it significantly improves cognitions in people who have been diagnosed, and then it could be prescribed by neurologists or geriatrics as a first line of treatment for cognitive decline. And today there's 50 million people worldwide with dementia. There's actually 150 million people worldwide with some sort of cognitive impairment, and which means we can help firsthand over 100 million people with our solutions today in an area where there's no solutions at all. There's no treatment. Today, if you unfortunately go to your GPs and you mention the number of cognitive troubles or impairment, or you're worried about your memory, unfortunately, in the large majority of cases, you will be just sent back home and asked to come back in a few years later for a diagnosis, because there's a lack of solution. So we really want to bring a unique solutions, which is at the end with efficacy, non-invasive, and actually quite affordable compared to because of digital solutions are way cheaper than some of the potential drugs treatment. And for us, obviously, it becomes a no-brainer solution.
Yeah, I like what you did there.
No-brainer solution to help with cognitive decline. And I mentioned we've been already helping over 100,000 people from a more prevention standpoint, but we believe we'll be able to help even millions in the future. So very, very excited about the potential outputs and prospect of what we are able to deliver.
That is incredible. Voilà, c'est très bon. Magnifique again, because for me, to 50 million, over 100 million overall that can be supported through something that as yet doesn't have any sort of, real cures in such a non-invasive way is, for me, that when I talk about talking to leaders that have pivoted on a purpose, I feel that it all starts with the mind. This is our central control hub or operating system, and it is so heartbreaking when you see people suffer that decline. The body is willing, but the mind is no longer able. And so for me, for you to be forging that path to making such a difference through what I didn't know about the therapeutic one, because obviously I haven't got it. So, but using it with the quizzes, the games, the information that's there, it's just it's a powerful thing that has got me more goosebumps than I had before. And I knew you'd be an awesome person to talk to about that, because it's personal, but I think it's also something that is needed, and more awareness needs to be raised around these challenges and what can be done rather than what isn't available, what is not known. So keep up the good work. And last thing before I ask you more questions, but please do keep up the good work. The sleepless nights are, I can't tell you they're worth it, nor will your family say they're worth it, but I think you're doing a great thing for the wider community as a whole, like for England, the UK, sorry, also France at the moment, but hopefully global, hopefully.
Yes, it's more like one step at a time. Obviously, to be able to cover more countries, territories, also means more funding. So I think now we've been primarily focusing on the UK and Europe to start from a development standpoint. But you see our long-term plans is to cover and help people all over the world. Obviously, but we need to overcome sometimes some challenges from a regulatory purpose, because it's a medical product, which means we need to have the required level of approval from the regulatory body. Actually, navigating the health system is probably one of the most challenging startup environment, because it's well, for good reasons. It's heavily regulated. You want to ensure safety of products or solutions given to individuals, but it means it's quite long. It's expensive to run, so you need quite a large amount of funding to be able to deliver. So for now, we've been going more of a step-by-step approach. We have raised more than £3 million to date. We're actually in the process of raising more money, but it's like, you can't be delivered or distributed all over the world just yet.
Sure.
You need to be able to have enough funding and resources to do so. But it's also one of my priority to get these resources, so we are able to provide the solutions to more people.
That has got me thinking, and note to self, but there probably will be some connections I can introduce you to from a funding perspective, from supporting sort of tech startups and scale-ups as well. So note to self, I'll connect you with some people on that side too. But yeah, I think it is a really helpful app, and I didn't know, this is something that was my latest test that I did, it was a quiz, I think, around sugar, because people talk about sugar from a well-being impact to your body. You know, if it's not used, it creates fat, and we know too much sugar is not good for you. I didn't actually realize it has a cognitive detrimental effect as well until I saw it on there. So I was like, wow. And there's so many useful nuggets. I think, you know, you've positioned it brilliantly, so it doesn't need a hard sell for me. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, and the variety. I didn't know that the 5 lives, I should have asked you this when we've talked before, but the 5 lives are the 5 elements. But there's the quizzes, there's the games, and there was this it felt like a chatbot. It was asking me questions like, how are you doing with your objective to sleep more? And I was like, ha. So, I not quite there, and it's like, okay, consistency is key, you know. So it was like talking back to me. So that was brilliant, because it sort of holds you to account to the things that are going to benefit your cognitive function down the line. Yeah. So great work.
It's one part, because there's kind of strong gaming elements in the app, because you have simulations and memory or attention games, but we have called habit quests, so it's more like a chatbot that help you do some tiny habits changes to your life, that we have designed with some experts in behavior science to help people change their behaviors or change their habits. That's why in some way we're able to modify or help in a good way your diet habits or your sleep habits and so on. But even that part, something we keep improving. You see, we keep adding new content, new health articles, new games, but also the habit quest area is something we improved. A good example was a most used quest is more around physical activity, but it's only text-based. And some people sometimes were struggling to understand what we ask from them. So actually we're in the process, for instance, of updating it with images or video contents to help people better understand what they ask from them. So it's a feedback we get from users. So it's so the product is an ongoing iterative experience as we keep improving. It's a bit like shaping a diamond in some ways, but or shaping a ring. And it's a bit of a jewel that you need to polish and get and improve and get better over time. And sometimes we call it games as a service or app as a service. It's something which keeps improving based on also users or patients' feedback to make it better and better and better and more efficient. If it's better, there'll be more engagement. If there's more engagement, there'll be better efficacy at changing lifestyle. So it's trying to get the best magic sauce. So.
That's it. It's totally a journey, and from what you described, like a real iterative one as well. So you started with something, I presume, like a minimum viable product, and then it builds, and you keep refining when you're taking the feedback, and it keeps it interesting. So I mean, fantastic app. Friends and family are already using it. I will continue. I'm in trouble for my sleep, but I'm work in progress. Work in progress. No and something that is key for me to just ask you is if you were to go back in time and were to be able to speak to yourself about the journey that lay ahead of you, you know, because where you started, where you are, different places, where you started, I don't know, was that where you intended to end up with Five Lives? Was that the plan from, the beginning?
Absolutely not planned, because I started in that's sometimes also the joy or the uncertainty of life, because you doesn't know where it's going to take you. So I think there's a lot of things you can plan, but there's a lot of things you discover on the way. Because I think, as I was mentioning at the beginning, I started more into the games industry. So I was more, I played a lot of video games when I was a teenager. So it was a big passion of mine, and actually I was very pleased to work in the video games industry. It was my passion. I didn't know, I will not expect at some point that my experience in games will be useful in solving healthcare challenges. So it's not something I had planned that I would solve or try to solve Alzheimer's and so. So I think there's been something which has built up over time. It was back to the days of peak. We had developed that brain training platforms to train memory attentions, but we had initially didn't build a strong research or academic elements, but we discovered that academics were reaching to us about how they could use our games into for monitoring Alzheimer's, rehabilitations after a stroke, or to treat depressions and so on. It's not something you really plan. So a lot has been coming. Sometimes we call it a bit product discovery. You might have designed it for one way and you discover it's used in different way. And it's actually the most probably fascinating and exciting when you see that people are using what you built for different purpose, and then you realize that some of these purpose, solving or treating some health disease is super exciting, and then you go all in. But definitely not something. It's not something you can. With no master plan. So I think you do your best. I think it's about seizing opportunities. I think it's important to recognize where to put your energy or your teeth in. I think it's something which is important, I think, for entrepreneurs. There's so many opportunities. It's like, okay, where do I need to put my energy? Which stream do you follow? And you go all in. And this is probably what I believe I've done. But it's not something I had planned 10 years in advance. If you hadn't asked me the question 10 years ago, I wouldn't have a clue. So.
No. And I think that for most of us, as we journey through life, it is the very, very same. The old adage where maybe in our parents or their parents' generation, where you start a job and you become apprentice through to master in that job and for life, it doesn't really happen now like that. But for me, knowing what you've learned now around the shaping of a master plan and things coming to you, if you could go back in time, and I say this more because I know you can't, but more for someone that's maybe earlier in their journey who is thinking, if only I knew this. Like, what are you happy that you've learned now that you wish you knew that may have supported you earlier in your career?
Yeah, I think it's don't be afraid. In some ways, no regrets. Sometimes we might have a tendency to refrain or prevent ourselves from taking actions. Yeah, I think it's I'm probably way better at that than I was 10 or 20 years ago. But sometimes you're too ashamed to ask, too ashamed to try. So talk to that person. To take actions. Don't be afraid. You have only at the end we have only one life. So I think do the best of it, and make sure you have no regrets. So I think this is probably the number one thing, because time flies. Way faster than you think, so I think it's really about seizing the opportunity. Don't be afraid, and actually means enjoy life. Don't plan for in 10 years. Do it now. That is the number one thing I will do to take actions. And I think sometimes that's a difference between most two entrepreneurs, you have an idea and you take actions, and the one who take actions will be the one who move forward, or at least learn from the process. I think it's really one of the key advice to my younger self. And the second, but I think I haven't been too bad, but I think it's to stay or be curious all your life. You keep learning all the time, and be curious about things you like, but the things you don't know. So I think to discover, to be hungry for knowledge, for others, to understand what other people do, and I think it's a huge source of inspirations, informations, reflections, which I think is very, very important.
Yeah, yes and yes. I'll try not to say too much more than that, because I think you've summarized some really useful points there around enjoying the journey, not being afraid, really seizing the day. These things, I think are ways that we can all live by. One of my mentors said to me some time ago, he thought that I would be a CEO or something. And at the time, I was like, I'm so far from being a CEO, but I guess I could say I am now. And he said that, the thing is, sometimes in life, God draws straight lines with crooked sticks. And I was like, pensive, thinking, it's too early in the day for gin or rum, or what does he mean? And when I reflected on it, how I understood that to mean is, if someone was to look at your career now and speak to you about where you sit now, it seems like, oh, here, you've landed, CEO, co-founder, yes, 5 lives, what amazing thing. But actually, you've taken different turns, crooked turns at times, where, like you said, you've tried your best, you've tried to enjoy it, and then opportunities have come with academics reaching out at peak to say, hey, we want to, and you've built on that and you've moved forward. So when you look at the trajectory, sure, it's like it's upward generally, but what people don't see is there's been learning in that, and that curiosity, I think, really sustains us when we enjoy the fact that there is more that we don't know. There's something else. And I don't know if this resonates with you, but whenever a challenge hits me, whether I'm marketing director or sales director or accountant or lawyer, I'm like, this is a real test of my character, resilience, to your point, as you told me before, but also my creativity, because there is a way that I can navigate this. It's just a case of figuring that bit out,
Yeah, and it makes me think about another trait which I think is important, which is a bit linked to self-reflections, but it's ability to change your mind. So some people might see it's like, oh, you're
indecisive or something.
Maybe it could be in a good or bad way, but I think as entrepreneurs, I think it's part of resilience. As you're accumulating new information and knowledge or ideas and reflections, ability to pivot, change your minds, do things differently, because if you're doing specific things only one way, and you might be sometimes too obsessed the way you do it, and actually if you do it wrong, if you're not able to self-reflect and potentially change the way you think, change your mind, you might not be able actually to pivot. So, and a good example is, I remember one of my first investors told me, I'm investing in you, not in your project, because 90% of the project I invest in, people change it. So very, very rarely the initial ideas or the initial project that you lay on is going to be successful. It's more a trust into the people to crack it, more than anything, because very large majority, you will end up doing something else that's what you initially planned. So I think it's and in some ways it's our ability, especially at the early stage, when we do early stage investment, we have the numbers. It's really about the people, and they feel the ability to crack the problem, and actually the ability to potentially change their minds to crack that problem. So
that you're so right. It's one of the, you read the management books or personal development books, and one of the key traits is that adaptability, and the ability to gather and synthesize different pieces of information. And then, the buck stops with you. You are, so what should we do? Weighing up all of the evidence and the probability of success versus failure, etc., etc. What should we do? So now I times with me perfectly, and it makes me think of a quote that has stuck with me since I heard it a few years back, which is, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Mm.
And on the back of that, while we're on this journey of self-discovery or navigation, other tools will appear. And it's not about, like I said, the how. Like when you start with how am I going to do it, you're not going to start, but why you want to do it and what you want to do, those two marry together. And like you said, the right team with the right culture so that they play nicely, like our children sometimes do or don't. It's important, for having success generally in life. So, no, thank you so much. And I know time is of the essence for you as well, but I would love to, if you've got a few more minutes, are you okay for a few more minutes?
Yes, it's fine. Yeah, please do. Yeah.
I would love to land our plane with the question around the legacy that you would love Five Lives to leave the world, when all is said and done, and wherever it ends up, stratosphere, wherever, like, what would you like the legacy of Five Lives to be?
Yeah, sometimes it's like how the moon looks like for us, and well, we want to become the first digital treatment for Alzheimer's. So I think it's there's no, as I mentioned, it's area there is no official solution. So we really want to become the first or probably most effective solutions at helping solving the disease. But I think it translates by helping millions of people living healthier, longer, happier lives. So I think, or actually our motto, it's 5 lives, add life to yours. So it's about really improving the quality of life for millions of people. So I think actually the add life to yours is a good summary of what we want to achieve and to help these millions of people enjoying life for longer. So I think this is really what the legacy we want to give, and to if I could put a numbers, I don't know if it's a millions, a billions or so, but adding billions of years to of quality of life for millions of people, you could quantify how many years you could give back to people. I think that would be amazing numbers. And I don't know if there's a specific numbers in mind, but it's just the largest number possible would be the best we can. So.
That's a really powerful and moving goal and ambition to have, and I definitely wish you all the success, because when I think of what you said, yes, you're adding life to years, but you're also adding life to years of all the people that are connected to the people that end up suffering. When I've gone to Age UK to see what they do, they've got a memory tree cafe locally, and you see those suffering with dementia or Alzheimer's who come. They usually come with their carers. In some instances, it may be their partner, or it's another representative who holds their hand through that journey, and maybe for love or maybe for compensation they do it, but for you to help add life to those years of those individuals who otherwise may find themselves in need of support, you're also allowing others to enjoy and live more of the lives that we all hope will have long, healthy lives, I'm sure, right? So the knock-on implications runs beyond those that are, as I see it, those that are likely to be impacted by it, but to their families and their friends and the communities that they are in. So, wow, what that's a big old pivot and a great purpose to be aligned in, and I'm sure not only myself, but anyone watching this will wish you all the success, because your work is going to help so many of us and our families more broadly. So thank you so much, Xavier, and I really appreciate the time today to share that. It's a great mission that you're on.
Yeah, but you're welcome. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share part of the story. So it's we're always happy to to share about the great work we're doing and how it helps millions of people. So thanks for giving me that opportunity.
You're welcome. And when my tennis improves, I may risk it and come down to France and give you a game, but I'm no Gael Monfils yet. So I need to work on it.
Training, but yeah.
Thank you. All right. Well, all the best in regards to the family as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Take care. Do you